Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald at Camp Creek Farm, 400 acres near Colchester, and you're looking at the newest addition to this farm. Paul Behrens is climbing this windmill, and this is going to deliver water to these 400 acres here at Camp Creek. The purpose of this is there are two wetlands here that need to be fed. One's a small one, one's upstream a little bit, it's a little bit bigger. And the plan here is to provide enough water from this old-fashioned windmill to keep those wetlands wet throughout the year. It's all part of a big conservation project that's been going on here since the 1970s. Paul, are you at a time when you could talk a little bit, or is that too dangerous up there?
No, this is fine, Mark. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. I hope you're tethered to that thing in case anything happens. It looks like dangerous work to us.
Well, I feel pretty comfortable. I've been doing this a long time.
You've done this more than once, I take it.
That's right.
Okay. Where are you in the process of getting this windmill ready to go?
Well, we're just doing the final adjustment, the final connections, and we should be pumping water here in a little bit if the wind cooperates.
Yeah. When you're up there like that, do you worry about the wind if that thing starts to move on you?
Well, we take precautions. Right now we don't have any wind to speak of, but we can apply the brake, or I can apply a brake up here manually. So we do take safeguards just in case the wind was to start to get up.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people think windmills are only used to create energy now, but they still pump a lot of water, don't they?
Well, that's right, Mark. We pump water for livestock and for ag drainage and pond filling, and in this case for marsh flooding. But yeah, it's a good proven workhorse to do the...
This looks like a very old-fashioned windmill, is it?
Well, it's a 1940s or so vintage, but it's all been rebuilt, and we stretched the tower from 33 feet to 47 feet. But you wouldn't know it. The bottom section is a new section, but it all matches perfectly with the old section.
You try to find these sort of windmills around the country, don't you? So you don't have to always buy new.
Well, that's right. Especially the large windmills. I go out west, and this one I think actually came out of Colorado, where they do a lot of deep pumping. But we had an application for it here, and so I went and got it and rebuilt it.
Oh, you rebuilt it now, and now it's like new.
That's right.
Yeah, and the blades, is that called blades? Is that what's on the wheel there? Are those blades?
Yeah, we call them blades, and all 18 blades make a wheel. This one's 14 feet diameter.
Is that a big one?
That's pretty big.
Yeah. So here you're talking about since it's a deep, well, you're pretty high tower. So is that why you have big blades?
Well, we have big blades because this is a pretty deep pumping job, and we had to have more power to draw that deeper water.
I see. Well, thank you, Paul, and come down safe, okay?
Okay, thanks, Mark.
John, when did you make the plan to build a windmill here that would provide water for your wetland? When did that start?
Well, the seed was in my brain for many years before we actually did anything. And finally got to the point where Mary and I decided we're either going to do it or quit talking about it. So probably 8 or 10 years ago we were talking about it. But
and during that time, did you ever run into the situation where your wetland was going to go dry and you thought, oh, I wish we had built that windmill? Did that ever happen?
No. I was satisfied with the way things turned out with the wetlands.
But you decided to go ahead with
a little more.
Yeah. Now, this is as we discussed with the windmill maker, this is a pretty good size operation that you got here, and he had to build it pretty tall to catch the wind. How deep did you have to drill to find water?
They were drilling away in the evening about 7 o'clock, and they told me that they were going to get out of the water formation in about 335 feet.
My goodness.
And they were getting close to that, and at 315 feet, water. About 5 gallons to the minute.
Is that enough?
Well, we haven't really had enough time to test it.
You don't know yet. I mean, we haven't even started pumping yet, but you're going to pump today, it sounds like.
It sounds like it, and
Yeah,
hopefully it'll pump enough that
Yeah.
it'll stabilize the water level in the wetlands.
300 feet, more than 300 feet. That seems awfully deep to me. I mean, I know some people that can find water at 30 feet.
Well, that's a different kind of water, so to speak. You
Yeah.
have different water tables, and some of those that are closer to the surface, you can get a good supply for a short time, but you have the tendency to pump those out. And a lot of people in the neighborhood have shallow wells, and they've had water supply problems in recent years until the new water district came into place, and that's gotten a lot of people off the hook.
Yeah. Now, you and your wife Mary have owned this farm since the 1970s. It's 400 acres, and ever since then you have been making improvements to it and trying to bring it back to a natural state. At one time, I guess this was a cash crop farm, wasn't it?
And a beat-up cash.
Beat-up cash crop farm.
Yes. So it was overgrazed and kind of abused, actually. Probably shouldn't say that because we have people in the neighborhood that are associated with it in the past.
You've owned it so long, though, that now, I mean, this is your and Mary's property. In fact, I asked you if we could come out and tour it with you because not only is this windmill interesting and the wetlands that this windmill is going to feed, but you and Mary have planted 50,000 trees here. You and your family have helped you. You've restored some prairie, and it's just a remarkable piece of property. So if you would show us this 400 acres, I think our audience would find that very interesting.
Let's give it a try.
Okay, sir, let's go.
All right.
Well, John, we've driven down the hill, across the ravine, and down here in your wetlands, which you're so fond of, you can actually see the blades from your new windmill up there. Down here. That's kind of neat, isn't it?
Waiting for the wind to blow.
Waiting for the wind, that's right. You guys got a lot invested in that, and Mother Nature's going to have to help a little bit.
Well, she'll probably come through if we're nice to her.
She always does, right?
Yeah.
She always does. Actually, speaking of being nice to Mother Nature, that was really your point of buying this 400 acres, wasn't it? You're a biologist. You taught biology at Western Illinois University for years, right?
Correct.
And this is your field. This is what you do, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so you
practice what I preach.
Yeah, practice what you preach. And so of course, you were still working at the time you and Mary bought this 400 acres, but you knew that at some point you'd want to retire and take care of it, I guess.
That's about the size of it, yeah.
When we look out here at this big wetlands that you have here, describe to me what this looked like when you bought this property. What did it look like?
Well, where we're standing and out in front of us where you see the water, it used to be a corn and soybean field. And used to wait for it to get dry enough in the spring so we could plant it to those crops. And then we decided that wasn't practical, and in the ensuing time, why the federal government got into a lot of different programs for creating and protecting wetlands. The state of Illinois through their CREP program and the USDA through their CRP program. Go through the alphabets here. And then the Fish and Wildlife Service had their Partners for Fish and Wildlife, this is one of those projects, Department of Interior. And it's worked out pretty well so far.
So after you gave up trying to farm this, because it was low, right? I mean, it was a low area, and it was wet a lot.
Poorly drained.
You tried to drain it, and that didn't work, so you just decided, well, let's keep it wet, huh? And what happens now? I mean, what sort of wildlife do you see, and what's it like down here?
Well, we have a nice population of Canada geese most of the year, and as we were talking a little bit ago, we had 6 broods come off of these 2 small areas here, plus the 2 ponds up above, which we'll get to those later, I guess. And I can remember one day our son, who's an avid birder, saw 7 species of waterfowl on this wetland.
On this one pond.
One pond.
Isn't that great?
And we've seen white pelicans, bald eagles.
Wow.
So
the pelicans go through here twice a year, and they're looking for a place to light, I guess, aren't they?
Well, these were flying pretty high and fast. So
Oh, they didn't come down,
They
huh?
didn't alight, but they went
Okay.
right over.
I'll be darned.
We just happened to look up and see them go over.
What you did here was this wasn't actually a creek that you dammed up. This you scooped out, right? You scooped this out.
Right, excavated and used the material to build a dike around the excavated area.
And you
And then-
created a couple of islands. You left a couple islands here.
Right, and then an area to walk out into the wetland if you want to. That's like a peninsula coming out of finger.
One island, two islands, and then behind that is the peninsula.
Right.
And then on the other side of that, there's a high area like a dike, and then there's your second lowland, which is or your wetland, which is much smaller.
The little wetland we call it.
Yeah.
Yes,
And that's the first destination for the water that you're going to pump with the windmill.
that is correct.
Okay.
Yes. It'll come from the windmill through a pipe down over the hillside, several hundred feet, and then pour into a small ravine, which water flows over that on bedrock. And then it comes down and goes into a culvert under the road and into the little wetland.
The hill on the other side of the pond over there, what was there before?
That was a overgrazed pasture and pretty limited in terms of tree cover.
Wow, it's not now.
And most of what you see there is volunteer growth from 1972 up to the present.
So you didn't have to plant a bunch of trees over there, although you did plant 50,000 trees. And we're going to see some of those. Those were not among the trees you had to
No,
plant
that is
there.
correct. No, that's
Okay.
native forest land.
Well, we mentioned the fact that you still farm some of this. You have some alfalfa here. And what I like, you've also initiated some prairie. And you've got an area here where the alfalfa and the prairie are together. And then they're right next to some trees you planted and another wetland.
Right.
Let's go there.
All right. That's
Okay. Wow, what would you do without this thing?
well, I used to walk all the time.
Yeah,
Literally, we haven't had it all that long, about 10 years.
no
probably.
kidding.
But it got so
Man.
I was spending too much time walking and not getting back to where I needed to work.
And not getting enough to doing. Huh?
Yeah.
Walking and not doing.
Like
you
way
need-
back in where you haven't been, way back in the back 40, it takes me, if I walk it, it takes me 25 to 30 minutes
Yeah.
each way.
Yeah.
This thing, I'm back there in 5 minutes.
And you can take stuff with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Heavy stuff.
Heavy stuff.
I think I got something loose up here in front.
In
I hit
any-
a bump and something,
In any kind of weather, this thing will go through anything, won't
Yeah.
it? No matter how muddy it gets out here.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You wanted to show me some grasses because what you've done here is you've restored a prairie. It's beautiful.
There's the Indian grass.
Okay, just hold that up. Just Indian grass. Now, will that turn color in the fall?
Well,
like it's
yeah,
kinda starting to turn purple
yeah,
right now.
Yeah, it's turning.
It's beautiful.
It's still not quite ripe with the
Mm-hmm.
seed. Indian grass is a lot later than the big blue stem.
Yeah, look at all the color. Look at all the color back there. Wow,
Isn't that neat?
that is beautiful. What was this before you became a prairie? You made it a prairie, huh?
A wheat field
It was a wheat field.
the year before.
Yeah, and you planted it, or had some help
Planted
planting
it, the DNR planted it in the summer of '87. Summer of '88, I'm sorry, summer of '88.
What else are we looking at? Pick another one of these grasses that we can identify.
Well, that's one of the old favorites. Is big blue stem, turkey foot, some people call it.
Well, I know.
I don't do the Latin names.
Okay. This is, oh sure, turkey foot. Hold that real still for us.
There,
You
look
can
right
sure
up
see why
there.
they do that. Yeah, why it's called that.
And it's probably, some of these are 9 feet or taller, I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
guess. A couple feet over our heads.
Now, people think, oh, once you plant a prairie, you're done, but it takes care, doesn't it?
Definitely, yes. You have
What do you have to do to it?
Well, the typical approach is to burn it periodically.
Mm-hmm.
Different people have different ideas of how often you should burn it, but basically, if you have a 10-acre prairie like this, you burn 5 acres 1 year. The second year you burn the second 5 acres. The third year you don't burn anything, and the fourth year you start over.
So
And
roughly
this
every
is
4 years,
yes,
a part of it burns.
this is to control the woody plants,
Yeah.
which you don't want coming in.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And while it may look like awful at the time that you burn it, it doesn't take long for it to snap back, does it?
not at all, in a matter of weeks, but no, it looks like one big ash out here.
Yeah. Oh,
Black,
it looks
no.
awful, doesn't it? It looks like somebody destroyed it.
The main thing we have to worry about is trying to keep the fire from getting away from us, but also to keep the smoke off the road. And
Yeah.
so
Safety issue, isn't it?
you're restricted to certain kinds of weather, wind direction.
And it's
the way you can
springtime.
burn.
It's in springtime. That's when you want to do it.
Right.
So it has the summer to recover.
Although they're doing late fall burning nowadays.
Mhm.
I've not done any of that,
Yeah.
but I think they do that more in woodland areas, though.
Come out with me here for a moment, will you?
I can get that third grass on the way if you want.
All right. Yeah, let's see it. It looks like fireworks. It kind of looks like sparklers. doesn't it?
Spanicum, switchgrass, ticklegrass.
Tickle grass. Well, I can
Yeah.
see why they call it
Yeah, it
that.
goes up your pant leg.
It kind of looks like sparklers too. That's neat.
I never thought of it, but why not?
That's kind of neat. And while we're here, I'm looking at, there's this wall of white pines behind, and I keep talking about these thousands and thousands of trees you and your family planted. These are among them, aren't they?
Yes,
They're big. How old are these white pines?
1988.
88. Boy, you
when
guys
they
went
were
on a
planted.
binge in 1988. You were really working.
Well, that's when I retired.
That's when you were talking.
Don't say that's when I started working.
No, but I mean, you really did. I mean, that was the year that it all started to happen,
Right.
wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah, because you
definitely.
had the time to do it.
Yeah.
These are
Before
really...
we were doing brush control as much as anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Multiflora rose used to be very prevalent on this farm.
It's amazing how much faster these grow than the walnuts, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Now,
Softwoods they're called. So
Yeah,
softwoods
yeah.
tend to grow faster.
we look over there, we see the bright green, low-level grass over there. You still have some crops in here, and that's your alfalfa.
That's a hay field, alfalfa, and maybe some brome grass, little timothy.
I'm looking behind there too at that stone silo, that brick silo.
Yes.
That's been here a while, I guess.
A lot of people like to look at
It's
that.
beautiful.
I forget where it's manufactured. I looked it up on Google, or Mary did. I don't use the computer. But I think it's a local company, as I recall.
Well, it's beautiful.
You see the same silo around from farm to farm.
And how many acres do you have in hay now, or do you keep track of that?
Yes, I keep track of it. Right now, it's about 69 acres.
69 acres.
Yeah.
About 69. Yeah,
Right.
You keep track of it because that's income, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's nice to have enough income, which we do, to pay the taxes, insurance, and
Yeah.
basics like that. So.
Well, you know, we saw the wetland that you're going to use the windmill for, but you also have some other wetlands on here, and the ponds are gorgeous. So let's make that our next
All
stop.
right, let's
do
go.
Well, Mary, when John told you that he wanted to buy 400 acres, and then after he retired, he was going to spend all his time improving it, what did you think?
Well, I thought it was perfect for him, and so therefore it became perfect for me.
Good idea, John. Good idea.
We've been married 60 years.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you still enjoy coming out here?
Yes, yes.
What do you like about it?
Well, look
go
at the
out.
trees, for example.
Well, no kidding. I mean, they're everywhere, and you know each one of those personally, don't you?
no, I don't.
Well, you didn't hand plant those
No,
like your husband
no,
did.
I want to admit I had nothing to do with that. But look at the different colors out here.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
It is lovely. It is.
And there are 4 seasons, and that makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And the times when it's winter and this is iced over, and John walks out to the duck nest and changes the hay, ready for spring. I mean, that's just kind of nice. Spring is coming when that occurs.
Okay, now what we have here is you got a pond over here,
Yes?
and then you got sort of an isthmus here, which you built a bridge over, and a
Yes.
pond over there. And what made you two want a pond here? I mean, you had somebody come in here and bulldoze this out for
Well,
you, didn't
and the name of this artist with his bulldozer who did this is Marion Cleek. He is now deceased, but he was an absolute creative artist with this pond.
You told him you wanted 2 kidney-shaped ponds,
Yes,
and you wanted to join them in the middle,
yes.
but that meant you had to build a bridge.
Well, we didn't have to, and we could patent this for other people who wish to build bridges, but we did. And we've been to the Monet Gardens in France.
Aha.
And you've seen that picture with the lily ponds. We don't have lily ponds here, but we just thought, let's have a bridge like that, and John designed it.
He did?
Yes,
Wow.
he's not a professional.
He's got a little engineering
That
here
is,
too, doesn't
well,
he?
I mean, you do when you need to. And I remember driving the truck. We did this in 1984. These are kind of heavy pilings. And I drove the truck and stopped where I was supposed to stop. And he got them into the ground. This was all dry.
Oh, there was
that
no
year.
water here yet
No,
at that time?
no,
Okay,
there
which
had
helped.
been water, but that particular year.
So you picked a dry time to do it?
Yes, yes.
Sunk your pilings?
Yes.
He's a pretty amazing guy, because it's not only pretty and graceful, but it's pretty firm as well.
Yes,
isn't it? Pretty
yes,
solid.
and we have not done a thing to it since that time. No repair. I sometimes think we should take all of these reeds out, but then I kind of like them.
Your Monet Bridge, I like that.
Yes,
I like that.
yes.
And then, of course, if we look over past where we see the trees that grow right up alongside of the edge of the pond, those are cypresses, very intentionally planted there, weren't they?
Yes, yes, and they're feathery and beautiful, and there's cypress behind you also. We've been swimming in this part of the pond.
Makes me want to go fishing.
Well, we did stock it for a while. We haven't for a long time, but I know Eric, one of our grandchildren, he would catch fish here late in the afternoon, and then the next morning we'd have them for breakfast. We're high on his list because of that, of course. But
Wow, what a project. It is
the grandchildren
gorgeous.
have loved this, and our children are too. We have a boy and a girl, and they are totally devoted to the farm, and they have worked very hard, helping clean it up and plant the trees, and they're very skilled.
Speaking of trees, there's one more tree that we're about to look at now. If the camera keeps going, we see a big old dead tree there that's sticking out. And I think your artist with the bulldozer tried to talk John out of taking that snag out of there. He said, it's just going to die, right?
Yes, he said, well, why do you want to have that in there? Because it's just going to die. And John said, the birds will like it. And John was correct. So, but,
I like it too.
Well,
it looks like a sculpture.
well, that's true. Doesn't that make kind of an artistic statement
It
to you?
It does. It's very pretty. That and with the cypresses behind that
Yes.
stay green all year,
Yes.
that's very nice.
We're extremely pleased that we bought the farm and really haven't had a moment's doubt about that. I don't like to use the phrase buying the farm, but that's
It's better than
how
selling
it
the
goes.
farm.
That's right. And I noticed that over there, and I have no idea what that is. It looks like kind of a vine in that fir tree. Someone will know that.
Yeah. Mary, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
It's beautiful. Walnut trees grow kind of slow, don't they?
Definitely.
Yeah. This stand in here has been here since, well, you planted every one of them. When did you plant them?
Spring of 1987.
1987.
Yes.
And you didn't plant like saplings
No.
in this case.
No, we took a different approach
What was your approach?
with the encouragement of the state forester.
Yeah.
The approach was to gather walnuts from the yard up on top to get them out of the way of the lawnmower. I ended up with 26 bushels of walnuts.
You've got some walnut
And
trees
I
that
had-
really bear.
I had a 6-acre field that needed trees, so instead of planting trees, I planted walnuts.
You did.
It's kind of the old-fashioned way, like we used to plant potatoes. You dig a little pit,
Yeah.
put the seeds in, 2 walnut seeds in each pit, and tamped them down, and here's what happened.
And here's what happens. And this
Yeah.
is, let's see, you said 1985? Is that what you said?
1987.
87, 97, 07. So they're almost 30 years old.
Right.
And does this look like, I mean, would you're a biologist. Is this a normal stand for being that old?
I'd say normal or a little above, probably.
Really?
Because it's down here in perfect soil conditions. Kind of loamy and moist. Not too much water, though. Walnuts don't grow in standing water like cypress do.
But a little standing water won't bother them because there's a creek right over here, and it comes up, and this would be underwater sometimes of the year, right?
Right, for a few days at a time, not long enough to affect the walnuts.
Didn't bother them. So you dig these thousands of holes, 2 walnut seeds per hole, and then you wait.
Right.
And your waiting paid off. Your waiting paid off.
Well, if it hasn't, there's still lots of time down the road for the children and the grandchildren.
That's right. You
I
might
don't
not
plan
be
to be
here
around for the harvest.
But these are going to be here a good long time. These are going to be here a long time.
I think so.
And walnut trees, my goodness, if they ever wanted to harvest this, walnut's worth a lot of money, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a standing treasure.
Yeah. Things have changed a lot at this old farm near Colchester. As you can see, the old windmill is still there and the new windmill behind it. It's kind of interesting, though, they're still pushing up water the old-fashioned way here. With another Illinois story near Colchester, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send 1995 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.